Good afternoon.
My name is Stephanie Durstein, and I'm on the board of the Historical Society. And today we would like to introduce a guest to you who's going to give us a stellar presentation on dairy farming, changes and challenges through the years. Don Myers, a dairy farmer for over 50 years, will be speaking to us on some of the milking techniques that have been used throughout the years, from bucket milking to maybe the use of the current robotics that we've been hearing about. Original farmer from Bucks County, he moved to Berks County and is sharing some of that Kempton knowledge with us today. And so we'd like to give him a warm welcome to Don Myers today. Thank you so much.
Well, this is something I never did before. It was the first time. I know some of you very well. JC's, going back to JC's. Gary over here, Gary Durstein, who helped me milk. Along with his two brothers and others. Back in the 60s. 70s. 1070s. Yeah. Yeah. So I grew up in Bucks County on a dairy farm. My parents farmed us 20 cows, very typical in that time, in the 40s. My grandfather milked by hand, and then the first milking machine came in the late 1930s, which I think is this one. And I milked with bucket milkers until 1971. Some larger sizes, but the same milker. And the concept of milking a cow, of course by hand, it's like this. That concept is still the same concept in any modern milking system today. Without that speed. And I don't have the shells and the inflations, but this is the pulsator. This is a pulsator. A vacuum pump makes air. That air comes to here by a line overhead. That's what makes the pulsator work. And these two pieces go back and forth, just like the hand. And that's what makes the milk come out. And there's two shells and four shells, like go on here, with black inflations. And that air in that inflation inside that shell is what makes milking work. The same hand principle. My grandfather had jerseys. My dad had Guernseys. And I got interested in Holsteins. So I changed to Holsteins. The Holsteins and other breeds all came from European countries, Holland a lot, and other countries in that area. And about 1870 was the first imports of dairy cattle from those countries. And my ancestors also came from Holland, from Irish. So these imports came by ship, of course. And the fellows that were doing the imports were not just importing common cows. They were trying to bring the best over here. breeding and genetics. And that continued from the day they arrived here. In the early 1910s, there were some farms that started. Some wealthy businessmen that were successful in their own fields, like logging or oil or Maytag sewing machine company, and numerous others, became interested in cattle. And they searched and researched, talked to people, how to go about it, and they proceeded to build their own dairy farm. And a whole number of them were, they bought the best cattle they could find. And hired the best dairy man they could find. And they were very successful. Carnation Farms in Washington was one of the first ones, and probably one of the largest farms anywhere, Carnation Farm, and it lasted a long, long time until the late 1900s. But breeding of cattle with those excellent hired men made the breed. Every breed did this too. And the byproduct of a cow is milk. Number one is milk. But by breeding the best bull, the best cow, to get the best calf, was their goal the whole time. And that made more milk in the end. Because it's the structure of the cow that makes more milk. This is called a true type model cow. Every breed has one. This is what a perfect cow should look like. It all starts right here, the muzzle. It should be a wide muzzle. Why? To consume large amounts of feed. With a wide muzzle, you need a wide chest and body to process all that feed. The more feed in pounds and quality a cow consumes, it's more milk. But it goes all the way back to the tail end. You know, a level, wide rump. That's for ease of carrying. Very important. And two more things are very important too. That's the udder. Well attached on the rear and the foreudder. So you don't have the udder breaking down, going down too low and it's in the dirt. You want it up there, out of the dirt. So that's very important. And then the other very important part of the cow is the legs. Cow has to move, especially years ago when grazing was mostly grazing. Cow had to walk. So the leg is not supposed to be straight or bending like this either. Has to have the correct angle. This all makes the cow live longer. I just saw your face here. If the cow breaks down in any of these areas, the udder, the leg, and narrow body can't consume the feed right, they're not going to last as long. Cows can easily last 10 years So, it may sound boring about the structure of a cow, but that's what makes more milk. More milk serves the whole country for milk being available to everyone in abundance. If you wouldn't have had that progress over the years, we wouldn't have as much milk. Plain and simple. Back in Bucks County, 20 cows, also had pigs, chickens, everybody had that. Some had sheep too, not as many, some beef cattle, some dairy cattle. I had pigs, I had sheep, I had chickens. I used that money to buy some cows on my own, which were Guernseys at that time. But the Guernsey breed was lacking in milk capacity and just the structure of the cow. Holsteins were more advanced. That was in the 50s, more so when I started buying cows. So then come 1961, I graduated from high school and had a small farm. My parents and I started looking for a bigger farm. Hence, we found one in Kempton called Mountain Road. A lot more acres, went from 20 cows to 50 cows. Still used the bucket. So instead of carrying milk for 20 cows, we were carrying milk for 50 cows. And my mom helped there too, because of the amount of milk that had to be hauled. A couple years later, we bought a Sputnik. Sputnik is a stainless steel container that held 300 pounds on 3 wheels, taking it out into the barn, dump the milk into the Sputnik with a bucket milker. That saved all that walking of all that milk. And that was pretty good. But then pipeline milkers were becoming available. It was a glass or stainless steel line overhead. Milk goes by gravity from the cow right to the milk tank. And that was like heaven. really made it a lot easier getting the milk right to the tank, quality milk, getting cooled right away. No delay in cooling. So that was and the date of the pipeline going in was December 30th, 1971. That's how important that pipeline was. Really was great. So that was 1965. We moved to Berks County, and I never regretted it because in Albany Township, unlike lots of other townships, we don't have much building. That's great. The scenery is all there every day. Unlike other places. You guys are more used to it than I am. But having an open country, open fields, the mountain, I'm very happy to be here. And my wife also, in 1965, we also got married. My wife didn't come today because she doesn't do steps as well. But then walking down the hall, I see the chair lift. So she couldn't come today. We were married in 1965. We had three children, 2 daughters and a son. Stacy married Steve Burtz, and she's down here at Reader's Harbor Store. They'll be 170 down there.
Wow.
But all the kids helped out. And I often hear people say about dairy farming being such a tough life. Yes, it's a tough life in that the cows have to be milked 2 times a day. And of course, a few went to 3 times a day. But I call that the torture schedule. to work 3 times in around the clock. Never wanted to be a part of that. But our children helped out very well. They were taught how to work, and they still, all 3, know how to work. So that's very satisfying. When bulk tanks, about 1960 is when I first saw my first bulk tank. A neighbor bought one. And everybody went to see it. This bright, shiny, stainless steel tank that held the milk in place of milk cans. It was phenomenal. But that's about the start of the bulk tanks. Going back to milk cans, one snowstorm, probably in 1950, a dozer came through to open the road. It was a small dozer, and he didn't know how to operate it either. Up and down, up and down. So it decided that the milk truck would come to the end of the road, and everybody would bring their milk cans out. So we did that. My dad did that. And got out to the milk truck. Here comes my other neighbor, Sam. He brought his milk cans in a Jeep. But the same size, but the same year, red Jeep that I have today. But he had 14 milk cans on that Jeep. He had 2 tied on that front bumper, a couple beside him in the seat, and the rest behind him, stacked 2 high, tied with ropes, 14 milk cans. I also did not say that in his 30s, when my dad was 10, he would take the horse and wagon, take the milk cans out to a creamery. Back in those days, there were creameries. There was no Lehigh Valley prior to 1930. But there were creameries around the area. So my dad would take the milk cans out to the creamery about a mile out the road every day. And so that was how it worked before 1930. Then through the 30s, after Lehigh Valley Dairy in Allentown, 7th Street, was built, then gradually people shifted over to a milk truck coming to the farm, every day. So Lehigh Valley true story. In Virginville, in that area, the fellows would bring their milk to Virginville someplace. I think it was right on the creek there in that one big building there. So they would bring their milk cans to there, to the milk truck right there. And one day, one dairy farmer brought his cans in, and right nearby was a store. And he needed new shoes, new barn shoes. So he went into the store and bought a new pair of shoes. But the shoes that he had on and came with were right out of the barn. Still musty. So some ingenious neighbors, I don't know, took his old shoes and put them back into his empty milk can. So several days later, at the milk plant in Allentown, and I was there and saw that already, the milk can would come off the truck onto like a steel roller. The milk can would come down full until a dumping station. And there would be one man there taking the lids off, dumping the milk cans, and out came two shoes. He shut the switch off right away. Of course, I retrieved his shoes. So that farmer was shut off for 2 days. He couldn't ship milk for 2 days because of those shoes being in his milk can. I was told that nobody ever confessed. Nobody. Top secret.
Wow.
So the shenanigans always have been there. No matter how many years you go back, there's always shenanigans somewhere. So I like to continue that trend. One time, somebody said that I was he thought I was a level-headed dairy farmer. I thought that was nice. And later I heard the definition of a level-headed dairy farmer is when one with a manure runs out both ears. Well, are you? At time traveling. So I've always liked humor since I was small. April 1st was since I was small. I loved them. Our family did that, but I was not good at it. I continued that for a very long time and still do it. There's humor in natural things that happen, wherever, whatever. So then it's humor in made up humor, like fibbing a little bit, making a story, making it sound real. And that's what's fun about humor. All kinds of humor. But if you didn't have humor, and some people don't have too much humor. I think we're better off if we have some of that to blend with all the serious stuff we do, which is plenty. Let's see. On into the getting back to a tough life. That's what we'll say. Dairy farming is a tough life, yes. There's breakdowns. There's high prices of equipment. Sick cows. That's all the downside. But there's plenty of the good side of dairy farming. Your own boss, your own place. You work at home, you don't have to get in the car and go someplace. You're right there. Those are all good things. Family, most important, family. All taking part and accomplishing something every day. Size of farms. Back in the 1900s, early 1900s, some people only had 1 or 2 cows, just for the family. That was way back. Then again in the 1930s, 1940s, herds were anywhere from 15, 20, 30, maybe 40. And it was all stall barns. Cow into stall was tied by a collar or a yoke. And then around 1960 is the first milking parlors that came to be built. So that allowed easier adding onto the herd. Just had a bigger barn to house the cows, so you had your milking parlor. So then the herds went from like 50 and 60 on to 100, and just kept going, and still going today. When we moved here, there was at least 35 dairy herds in Albany Township. There's three now. That's typical in many areas, not so much in Lancaster County, and Berks County still has a lot overall. But the size of herds have just increased and increased. One of the downside of dairy farming is the price of milk. Price of milk moved very slowly from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Milk is priced by the 100 pounds. So all through those years, through the 60s, it never got above $6 per 100 pounds. That's how it's priced. In the 70s, I don't know why, but the price doubled from $6 to $12 per 100 weight. It was the best decade for me ever. The price doubles over 10 years. There's a lot more money to build a silo, get bigger equipment, and make the field work easier. Chopping their feed instead of all those bales. Gary knows all about. So this trend sometime, there was one farm, one farm only. It's a Walker farm in New Jersey that had a carousel milking parlor. It was only one of its kind. Not a big one, but the cows came in to a platform and then went around as they were milked. So, milking parlors have gotten bigger and bigger all the time. From four stall milking parlors to 6, 8, 10, 12, 20. And now these carousels go up to 75 cows. I've seen one. I visited a couple of herds, 1,000 and above, and in Indiana and California, I saw a few in the thousands, and then in Indiana, I forget the name of the farm. I stopped there. They had 10 herds, all separate herds, 3,000 per herd. That's 30,000 cows in that complex of 10 units, 3,000 cows apiece, all milked in a carousel. Like a 75 cow carousel, go around once, they're done milking. So that's how far we have come. The number of herds in the whole country is a whole lot less today compared to years ago. When you had a few cows, 10, 20. It added up to a lot of herds. Small. But the number of herds is way down. The number of cows is a lot less than years ago. Because the production per cow has gone up a lot. There's an official testing service. It's called the Dairy Herd Improvement Association. When you test your cows once a month, a tester comes around and weighs the milk officially. These are for official records. Years ago, an average herd, Holstein herd even, could average 10,000 pounds per cow per year. That's good. Well, that kept increasing over the years. Back in the 70s, it might have been up to maybe the top herd in Berks County was 15,000 pound herd average per cow. Then it went to 20, 25. Now that we're into 30,000 pounds of milk per cow per year, and a few higher. But that has all come about because of the structure of the cow to handle so much more feed and converting that to milk, as well as better feed and mixing of the feed with the right protein, the right energy. Energy comes from corn. Protein comes from alfalfa. You combine those along with minerals and salt and a few other things, makes that feed much, much better. Higher in everything. Makes more milk. That's where these 30,000 pound herd averages come from. So it's all advancement. From the cow to feed to milking conditions. Years ago, barn that takes the excess smells out of the barn. And that was in stall barns. Very little air movement. Now we have barns with lots of fans. The quality of the air is a whole lot better. Same way with in Young Brothers, freestall barns, where they have curtains on the side of the one-story buildings, down in the wintertime, up in the summertime for air movement. It all adds to the quality of the air, which helps to make milk. Then we come to robots. Does anybody know what a robot concept is?
Carousels, you mean?
No?
No, it's never.
No. You do.
I don't dairy, but
You know something about robots.
Well, yeah.
Robots, some of that technology came from Europe, Holland and other places, and then from here. Probably 10 years ago. If anybody knows Dalton and Brad Beal, halfway down toward Reaver's Hardware Store. They were the first ones in this county, I think, that put one in. One robot will milk 60 cows in a day's time. That's kind of the capacity. So the Beals increased their herd from the 60 to 120, so we have 2 robot stalls. A robot butt is a stall where the cow comes into. And then it's kind of squeezed a little bit to keep that cow very still. So the robot is the arm that comes in from behind to attach the inflations onto the teats. So the cow has to be very still for that arm to successfully attach. In a robot, the cow comes in, the cow's udder is washed automatically. Now, in some, I think the udder is washed before it enters the robot stall. Either way, it's washed, dried off automatically. The milk is tested. If that milk is not right, and mostly bad milk is called mastitis. You ever heard that word? Flaky, lumpy milk. But that is checked first. If that milk is not good, that cow will be milked, but that milk will go into a separate tank. And of course, right after that cow is done, that part of the milk line is washed right away, real quick, to get rid of that. And then most likely, when the cow is done milked, the cow goes to a treatment pen to be treated in the udder for the mastitis or whatever else is wrong with her. She'll go there. So one of the next robot farms is the Bixlers. Dave Bixler near Deca. They 4 years ago, brand new barn. And robots for 240 cows. So we had 4. 4 times 60 is 240. So another important thing about milking cows is traffic flow. The flow of the cows in a day's time, or between milkings, what they eat, where they go. A cow is a creature of habit. Their brains are not too big, but they're big enough to learn by routine. In a stall barn, we got the same number of cows every day for the whole year. Cows can be trained to go into one stall. Like my barn had 2 rows of 30 stalls. These chairs here. You can train a cow to go into that stall after maybe a week of guidance. So that's what I did. I did the same thing. I also helped that cow learn that stall too, because above, on the log above up here, I had my paper sign with the information about that cow, the date of birth, the name, and since my cows were registered or purebred, each one had a pedigree and a paper. But on my card above the cow was the birth date and the name, and the name of the cow was like Dancing Bell was my farm name, so that was my prefix. So Dancing Bell, the name of the bull, like elevation, then the cow's name, and that was a family name. The cows were all from one family name, all started with a certain letter, S or F or whatever. So to help train that cow to go into a certain stall, I had my cows looking out to that tag and seeing their name. That's how they knew where to go. People first. That's right. But the cow being a creature of habit is very important in later systems. We will go to a milking parlor and a free stall. Free stall barn means the cow is free to walk around, eat, lay down, sleep, and then eventually twice a day or 3 times a day coming to the milking parlor. But that flow of traffic, traffic, cows learn that. And cows do not want to do anything different, ever. Cows want to do the same thing every day, every hour. That's when things go right for them, as well as the owner. But then in designing robot milking systems, where you don't have people in the barn, traffic flow is very important. The eating area, the free stalls for laying down, the water trough area, and then when it's time to milk, nobody is telling them or pushing them to go into that robot. But the way everything is designed, it makes that cow do the same thing every day. 2 times a day. bunch of cow is milking after calving is when they milk the most. And they'll keep like a month or two after calving, they'll keep in daily production. So in a robot system, you can set the computer to allow that cow to come into the robot stall to be milked to 3, 4, 5, whatever times per day, depending on the production. And many cows can produce 150 pounds of milk per day. So that they're going to allow that cow to come in to the stall many more times a day for that large amount of milk in the udder. It's easier on the udder if 150 pounds is not in there all at once, but if she's being milked 4 times a day, but it's less stress on the udder. So that can only be set by the computer, allowing her to come in and near the stall, and it's too early for her to be milked, the gate will swing and she'll just keep walking away. That traffic count, that traffic flow pattern. If it's okay to be milked, the gate will open and she'll go in and be milked and on her way. So, another farm, another helper I had was the rice boys, just like Barry was helping them on weekends. They the middle boy, the rice is milked also, all of the 2 brothers now, right there at Kempton. But then he had an offer to go into partnership with 2 brothers in Nebraska. So he went out there. They were milking like 200 cows at the time. So in partnership, they built a 700 cow barn. New milking barns. Not robots, but a plotter. So we stopped to visit them on one of our many Western trips. And I said to him, how in the world do you know when a cow is in heat to breed? A cow comes into heat, and that's the day you want to breed that cow. I said, this barn is a couple 100 feet long. How are you supposed to know and see the signs of heat in a cow to know to breed her that day? And he said, well, in a milking plotter and robot, a cow either has a collar on her neck or an ankle bracelet. And in there is computer chips. So one of the things that chip will register is the steps a cow takes every day. Just like some of us have fancy watches that record steps. So he said, a cow that is in heat, a cow that's not in heat will take maybe 200 steps a day. A cow that is in heat will be over 1,000. So that when they are checking their computer in their computer room in the parlor, put down the list. Oh, here's one. There's one. And those are the cows that get rid of that systems. You have computer systems all over the place, in the cars, everywhere. We all have computer systems, but this was a computer system for large herds. You can't visually check every cow all day long for whatever. But for breeding, it was the steps. That's it. That cow gets bred today.
Wow.
So, I think, that was Dan Rice, his first name was Dan, that's in Nebraska, doing that. And out there on his farm, then they built another barn up to 700 cows, so they were building 1,500 then eventually. And then they were also composting the manure for bedding for the free stalls. The manure went into a pit. The liquid went to another place. And they took the solids out into a long concrete pad to dry. And then you had a machine that mixed this manure as it dried and got it down to much like peat moss. And that went back into the stalls for bedding. Come through the cycle. Another thing that a few farms I've gone to is methane digesters. There's a lot of methane in manure. A couple thousand cows, you got a lot of methane. So I don't know too much about a methane digester, but it's a stirring process, and then that makes electricity for the farm. And successfully done. But it all adds up to cost. When you build a robot barn for a couple hundred cows, you add a methane digester, and everything else that goes with it, automatic calf feeders. This goes to millions. I don't know how many million, but $1 million plus to do all this. How it's done, it's a little bit more than my mental capacity or figuring out how to do that. I chose not to get bigger. I didn't want to double the herd, triple the herd. It takes double, triple feed, more equipment, and the price of milk is a factor. Like I said, before 1970, the price was very mediocre, hardly ever moved. 70 was great. From 1980 till I sold my herd in 1998, it barely moved again. So I didn't see as much, I wasn't as confident to keep going. I just keep going into debt. So I chose, we chose, my wife and I chose to sell our herd in 1998. Which I don't regret, but there's still some of that, but maybe we could have done more, but we chose not to. And we did fine.
this week.
Which one?
Kreider,
Yes,
over in Mannheim,
Yeah.
have you been there?
yes,
That was really something, I thought. 1,700 Holsteins and the carousels, huge,
Yes.
huge carousel. It's really interesting. I can see though, it's very different from what you did. But, it's just the way of the world now,
yes it is.
you know?
And they also have a lot of chickens too.
What was it?
Chickens?
Oh, they talked about the eggs and all too, but mainly we were there for the dairy,
Yeah,
you know, so we saw that part of it.
yeah, they had
Yeah.
the dairy section, but right
Mhm.
next door there is the chicken houses.
Right. If anybody's interested, they do tours, you know, so it's an interesting thing to go visit if you ever had experience.
Yes, it's a very
Yeah.
successful,
Mhm.
good operation.
And they are connected to Hershey by marriage. I thought that was interesting.
Oh, yeah?
Somebody married somebody and brought the two together, so I don't know if Hershey uses their milk then, or
I don't know
if they
that.
connect in that way at all, I don't know, but 1,700, and they get milk 3 times a day.
Yes, most of
Yeah.
the larger dairies do go to 3 times a day.
Well, they don't need as much manpower, but they have people, they don't have the robots, I don't think.
No, I
I
don't think
didn't see them.
so. No.
So the people do clean the udders and attach them and whatever,
Oh, yeah.
so have humans doing that, but,
All the basic stuff, yes.
yeah, which I think still sounds better to me than all automated, because I think things could come up that could be not good if you don't have that human there. Maybe they have that covered with their computers, I don't know.
Well, there's pretty much somebody on duty
Mhm.
and watching
Well,
during the day.
well, I would hope, yeah.
Not so much at night, but with these phones we have today,
Mhm.
there's so much stuff that can be put on a phone that will alert the owner or somebody
Mhm.
if something isn't going right,
Mhm.
or even if it is going right, they can see that all is well, and can start and stop operations on the farm on their phone.
Yeah, but those cows are in a routine, I don't know if they like that.
Right, not how they use it, right?
They really like the routine.
Yes,
They also have friends that they have. The cows have friends. They seem to have certain buddies or
Yeah.
people, you know?
some will always be together.
Yeah, they
That's
always,
been that way a long time, yes.
yeah, that's what they said, I didn't know that either.
Or a little bit of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Some cows will usually be first.
Okay, they like to be the head of the gang.
There's a little bit of that there too.
Mm-hmm. You learn their habits and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say along there, I live next door to a larger pig operation, and, well, you know Lynn Acres in Linville?
Yes.
Okay, I'm very near there. Anyway, like your phone will beep now. I got a call, I'm not even up there, but if the power goes out, they have generators.
Yes.
You'll get a phone call saying the power went out. It'll record the time. Power comes back on, the generator will run for a minute and shut off. But say you lose water pressure, anything like that, you can tie it in your phone. Like, guy could be sitting here enjoying. I gotta go now. I gotta run home quick. So, you know, the computerization, it is amazing what it can
It
do.
is. And how many apps you can put on that? Amazing. It's like,
How many acres does it take to feed a 100-head cow?
depending on the soil type. Now, soil type, Kutztown, Fleetwood, and Tally different from Kenton. Kenton is shale. Shale doesn't hold water. The water will go through shale much more quickly and will dry out much more quickly. Limestone soil goes down to Fleetwood, Oakley, Lancaster County, lots of places. That soil will hold moisture much, much longer. And, so,
At your farm, for example, can you use that as an example?
mine might be 1 cow for 2 acres, down here, probably 1 to 1. Generally, something like that. The difference is rain. The last 5 years, before last summer, we had a stretch of pretty good rain. We didn't have dry spells. Believe me, since 65, I went through a lot of dry spells. Sometimes with no corn whatsoever. Nothing. But, last year was a drier year. So it takes a lot more feed or buying of feed in the dry years.
Could you produce all your own feed, or did you buy automatically?
Barring a dry year, I raised all mine. I had almost 200 acres and I ran it 100 more. A bunch of mine was pasture, cropland, because of the hills. But I didn't raise all mine in a normal year.
Well, when you moved up here, I'm just guessing based on my knowledge of farming, would you say what, 50, 75 bushel per acre back in the 60s? You had 60 bushel an acre, you had good corn. Now, up our way, hey, if I get 150 bushel an acre, I'm happy, but down here, Kutztown, Fleetwood, 250, 300 in a good year. But I know years ago, I had a hard time hitting 100 because the ground was too dry.
Too dry,
It didn't hold, yeah.
and seed corn has been bred. There's breeding in seed corn, all seeds. But corn especially, over the last 30 years, I would say, has really gone up. 100 bushel was outstanding years ago.
The joke is now, every bag of seed corn you get, the genetic potential is there to get 500 to 600 bushel per acre. Now it's up to the farmer to plant it on the right day, get the right amount of moisture, the right fertilizer, the right spray material, everything you can't control, sorta.
Yeah.
But the genetic potential, right like the cows, the genetic potential can be there. There's more that has to be done.
Yes. But the advanced averages in corn went above 200 and approaching 300 is attainable down here. It can be done in shale ground with the right amount of rain every week.
An inch a week, that's what I was always told. If you don't get an inch of rain a week, your crops are really hurting.
That was always, I went by that to an inch a week up there. So,
And last year, we went 4 weeks with nothing.
yes,
My lowest field was 40 bushel per acre last year, the lowest one.
yes. Soybean has not advanced near like corn. You get 70 bushel beans, that's good. Sometimes 80 down here, but it has not gone up very much over the years. We've had 70 bushel beans a long time ago already. Done a lot. And that's genetics, trying to figure that out, how that advance the bean averages compared to corn. Another example of difference in soils, my daughter and son-in-law, Steve and Stacy, down here near Weaver's Harbor Store, that summer, we had a dry spell. It didn't rain for a month. Nothing. My corn was like pineapples. Went down to Steve and Stacy's. You wouldn't know it didn't rain for a month. That soil held that moisture, and the corn looked good. That's the difference in soils, the difference in when it rains.
Is there a concern about the genetic, that you were talking about genetics with the corn that they put in the ground? Does that, of course, it's like a circle, it goes back to the milk, and is that a concern for us? Should it be a concern? No, the genetically engineered corn that they plant, does that affect the cow and the milk?
No,
No?
that's called Roundup free, corn, beans, whatever.
Mhm.
Has been modified to accept Roundup as a spray for
So
weeds.
it's free of that, so it's organic.
So,
More
is organic or?
No, we can call it organic, no.
Not quite organic.
Not near organic.
Just Roundup free.
You just,
There are people that are against Roundup ready seeds,
at least it doesn't have.
but seeds have been studied, tried, different kinds of seeds to advance the average, to produce more production. So we've been at this for a long, long time already, breeding for a better plant, more production. Even seeds that will resist more bugs. So you don't have to spray as much. So the Roundup free seeds, I do not condemn. I just think it's progress in research. It gives more production, with a little less cost going into putting the crop out. And we all know, I'm told, how many people are starving in this world all the time, so why not do your best to increase production? And going about that in this Roundup free process, I do not condemn at all.
A lot of the modern apple varieties too today are crossbreds, like one I thought Jana Gold, I'm not an orchard, but so many different apples. If you only had the original apples, you might have like 10 varieties of apples to choose from.
True.
Now you have maybe 100, I don't know. But same thing, they crossbreed. And one thing I always think, you hear the stories, the GMO free and stuff, but back from elementary school, was it Booker Washington was experimenting in peanuts?
Yes.
He was crossbreeding and doing all this 100, 150 years ago, I don't know. So it's just more in the limelight now, because we have more modern stuff. But yet, if we went back to the old ways, you'd be paying twice as much for your food, and there'd be a lot more starving people.
Exactly.
We'd be eating field corn.
Pardon?
We'd be eating field corn.
Yeah.
Instead of sweet corn.
Yeah.
Well, sweet corn was only really modified, 100 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you wanted corn years ago, you went out in the field when it was young,
Yeah.
cooked it, put a little milk and sugar in the water, and that was your version of sweet corn.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Research and development is huge. Has been for a long time, back to like Booker T. Washington. Yeah. Okay, have we had enough?
Well, I have to tell you, Don, I met Gary in high school and introduced to farming and learned a lot as a city kid about what farming really is.
Yeah.
And everything that you talked about today with dipping, was it iodine
Yes.
that we dipped in?
Yes.
And- Yeah,
Dip.
yeah. And they wouldn't let me do any of the milking, but I could feed. And the one thing I always asked was why do they always get a different amount? Because I didn't think it was fair that Susie got two scoops and Sally only got one. So, his mom and dad always got a chuckle out of that because, you know, here I came and I wanted to give everybody the same amount.
No, Sally was looking more, she needed more.
There you go. Yeah, and so I learned a lot on the farm, and I just wish more kids could learn more about this. It's not just from a grocery store, and there's a lot that goes into it. I've learned a lot being on the board at the fair board too, because I see how these young kids are now springing up and following the generations in farming. And they're, you know, things that they're doing are similar, but yet they're trying to do things differently too. And it is really a 24/7 job. I commend anybody who here is farming or did farm. I mean, it is a lot of work. So thank you so much for your time, your service, and your information today. We really appreciate it. Thank you.